Welcome, everyone, to Partner Up with Amy Carroll. As a communication coach, trainer, speaker, and author, I'm delighted to be your host and excited to bring you insights and ideas to help you solve your communication conundrums. This is the 64th episode of my show, Partner Up with Amy Carroll. If you want to find out more about me, what the show's about, feel free to listen to previous episodes on my website, carrollcoaching.com, or go directly to the voiceamerica.com business channel. Download the app, and you can always tune in using your favorite podcast app. Now, if you missed last week's show, I interviewed for the second time Dr. Heather Cairns-Lee. She's a thought leader and a practitioner of clean language. And no, that's not the opposite of dirty language. Rather, it's a way of asking questions with making as few assumptions as possible. Good stuff. Be sure to check out either one of those episodes, either from February 12th or November 12th. And my friends, today I am here once again with my sidekick, T. Welcome, T.
Hi, Amy. Thanks for having me.
My communication compadre, as I like to refer to her as. And
indeed,
listeners, we are so excited to do this episode because we've been talking about this, I don't know, probably a month now, T, I think, doing this. And
we
listeners,
have indeed, yeah.
We're going to be diving into a book that we both read recently called Boundary Boss by Terri Cole.
Yes.
And in this book, Terri masterfully reveals how to find your most authentic voice, step into your power, and own your impact.
And after you read this book, Amy, I remember you saying, "Oh my gosh, T, you just have to read this book." Took me a while to get there. What made you pick the book up in the first place, Amy?
Well, I guess because I didn't, past tense mostly, I didn't really have such strong boundaries. And as a result, what I saw is I would get really angry and resentful in situations or towards certain people.
Right.
Yeah, it took me a while to develop the skill and the confidence to set the boundaries appropriately. So I guess I was really excited to find a book that helps to explain how other people can learn these skills and start applying them in their lives.
And I'm grateful that you told me about it.
Oh, yeah. You know, I remember being really proud of myself one time when I decided to deliver a difficult message to a friend who's also a colleague. And this was an example a couple of years back where I was going to set a boundary. Okay. And we were in an airport in Germany, rushing for a flight. In that exact moment is when I decided it was the perfect moment to have this conversation.
Well done. How did it go?
Yeah, well, just to say, it didn't go so well. I remember when we got into the airplane, my friend calmly turned to me and he said, "Amy, next time, maybe you can wait until we're in the plane before you start a conversation like this."
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I see, looking back, it really has taken me time to build boundaries and to implement them effectively.
Right. Ongoing, no?
Yeah. T, what was your impression when I first told you about the book?
Well, Amy, for a minute, I thought about the word boundaries and decided I must have set boundaries naturally over the years. It was something that was in place. And then very quickly, about 10 seconds after that thought, I kind of got a little scared and thought, I don't think I have any boundaries. What are boundaries? And hadn't really put any effort into that in my life or consciously put any boundaries into my place in my life. I didn't know if I actually even had any, to be fair, when I started to think about it and pull it apart. So the concepts suddenly seemed slightly abstract to me. It kind of bounced off the page and was flying around above my head, which sent me into a bit of a spin of slight panic, to be honest. And then some questions arose. Yeah. Was this something I should have addressed earlier in my 20s or even in my 30s? And how had I got to my 40s without ever sitting down to explore what my boundaries actually were?
Wow.
Yeah, a few questions. Had I missed something along the way? You were the first person to tell me about this or to make me realize that it was something that needed to be addressed. Maybe I hadn't listened to my friends or my older sisters or my parents. Was it something that we learned? Had I been a terrible life student for not having any clear boundaries set at the ripe old age of 44 today? I must admit, I freaked out.
Yeah. And I love that question of, but you didn't quite say it though, that like, was this taught and I was just asleep during the class, or did I miss the memo? Or
exactly.
I don't think we teach this to people consciously.
No, I don't think we do. I don't think we do. And it's obviously through the work that I do with you and the communication coaching that I realize my dog is having a little play in the background, by the way, if you hear him sniffling.
Little poncho.
Yeah, just the work that we do together has brought me to this point. So really huge aha moments happening with this book. And it took me a while to warm up. Around 6 weeks, I think. You'd said to me, get the book. And I was like, yeah, I just put it off another week or two. Not sure I'm ready to do this work. And then I started to listen, and because I had it on Audible, and really listening, I was shocked and intrigued at the same time.
In what way?
Well, so much stuff came up, so much work to do. And then also not feeling ready to do that work. It took, it's been a warm up to get to where we are today, even to talk about it here today on the radio show. Terri talks about going down into your boundary basement.
Oh, yeah.
So like pulling out the skeletons from the closet, and really delving deep into family history. That's a big thing that comes up in this book. The boundary
what does she call
blueprint.
It? Yes, that's it. The boundary blueprint.
The blueprint. So you kind of have to do this back work, I guess, and be ready to do that. And whatever happens when you're a child is heavily having an impact on where you are and what you do today. That's the key, actually. What happened in your childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you're like me. I don't really sit down and think about my childhood very often, unless I'm with family and we pull out photos and it's all happy memories.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a choice and the luxury that I have to not necessarily go looking at the negative stuff that happened. So as I started to listen to Terri in the book, she uses case studies, and I was maybe in denial a little bit, I think, Amy, sitting thinking, poor girl or poor person that was going through all this stuff in her childhood. That didn't happen to me. Nothing like that happened to me. Did that happen for you?
Oh God, yes. I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, I was
empathy for these people, wow. So yeah, and then I had this like aha moment, and it felt like I'd been whacked in the face with a wet fish, if you like, where I had to say, wet smelly fish. Stop denying it all. Stop denying the shit that went down when you were a kid. And it was time to face it. It really was time to face it. And Terri's convincing and compassionate manner enabled me to get to that point, because I think I went back and started the book again a few chapters in, with view to dissecting how it was going to work for me and what had happened in my childhood. So alcohol, abuse, fear of abandonment, screaming matches, violence, the real nitty gritty, dirty stuff. So as I rewound the chapters and was preparing myself to listen again with another outlook on what my real story was, from what Terri refers to as the family of origin. So really going back to your childhood and the family that you grew up with, and also, ancestors and maybe ancestors of ancestors, I guess, and all the stuff that we carry.
Yeah, the trauma.
Yeah, the trauma stuff. Yeah, transgenerational trauma, which obviously you had a show on that with Raj Kumari, which should be the repeat show for next week usually.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
That's definitely worth a listen. Transgenerational trauma. And I guess as humans, we don't want to go there.
Nope.
We don't want to go there. So I was really, when I started to listen to this book, I knew I was in for the long haul. And I'm still not finished. It's an ongoing process. So thank you for this very important work.
Oh, T, I'm so impressed by the bravery that must have taken. And
thank you.
Yeah, and what an aha, and what a huge gift you've given and will continue to give yourself.
Right. Yeah. And also maybe for my daughter and generations that will come through our family, So I recommended it highly to my sisters and my mom, and everybody's downloading the book, and it'd be great to get involved in the conversations with how they have memories of the same upbringing that I do. Once again, my dog has now brought his bone into the room. So if we hear the clack, 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 that's it's not my feet under the table.
Poncho's having a snack.
He's having a big T-bone snack. Yeah. So I think the personal boundaries that we set, really impacted by our childhood experiences. That's something that Terri says.
Yeah. Well, knowing all that, and I'm wondering, I think it would be interesting for us to share some of the quiz questions that Terri offers. Yeah. So listeners, you may want to get a little piece of paper and a pen and, just write a yes, no, or say it in your head to yourself. So here are some of the questions. In fact, I think this is a couple, and there may be even more than this. So yes or no. That's you're going to respond yes or no for yourselves, listeners. And the first question is, do you say yes when you want to say no? Is that true for you, T?
Yeah, I think we've all done that, right? We do. I know.
I do it less and less.
I'm doing it less and less, thanks to training with you, for sure. And when it comes up, it's kind of flagged now because I'm aware that no, this is not feeling good. This is not what, and so I can rectify it thanks to the training that I do with you.
It makes me think of Brene Brown, who talks about she has this ring and she twists the ring a bunch of times.
That's
before,
right. She does.
When she has to be put on her brave big girl pants and
right. Yeah. And I think Terri also mentioned something like that, right? She sits. What does she do? Does she, through the meditation work that she's done, she has now been able to create that space before she responds.
Yes.
So we get the reaction rather than responding rather than reacting.
Exactly. She has said that meditating on a regular basis has created has added 3 to 4 seconds, which doesn't seem like much, and it's significant.
It is. Yeah.
So it shifts her from reaction mode to response mode, and she has those 3 to 4 seconds to reflect.
Yeah. So similar to Brené Brown, who twists the ring around 4 times. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, one of the things I had to get clear about is to be okay with someone being annoyed with me or frustrated or pissed off if I said no.
Has that happened a lot?
There hasn't been I guess with some people, it's caused some real strong friction. Most people, they seem okay with it. And the people that they struggle with it, they have very weak boundaries too.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Interesting. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Terri calls the boundaries when they're weak, porous.
Yes.
Right? Porous boundaries.
Yeah. Porous, rigid, and healthy, I think, are the 3.
That's right.
3 types.
Exactly. Yeah. And the healthy ones are flexible, right? Flexible boundaries.
Yeah. The second question from the quiz is, do you resist asking for help, then end up doing most of the things yourself?
Oh, that's me. Has been me in the past. Again, something I'm working on. I was a martyr for many, many years. Wanted to do it all myself. Didn't want to ever ask for help. I've definitely started to ask for help or accepted help when it's offered.
Nice.
First thing would be, no, thanks, it's fine, I've got it. I can do it all. And then panic or upset and, emotional roller coaster because actually, no, I couldn't do it all.
Yeah.
I haven't got any specific examples. I just remember feeling that massive pressure of trying to get everything done, being a single mom and single full-time working mom and being away from my family, not having that support system, living in France, and really feeling like I took a lot on.
Yeah.
So opening up to the offer of help changes life for sure.
And I think what I do is I apply the improv attitude. So when someone offers me help, my attitude is say yes.
Right.
Not only because I might benefit, though I say yes, even if I don't think it's going to serve me. It matter, it's like, doesn't matter one way or the other, because when I say yes, I receive the gift the other person's giving me. And sometimes that makes them feel good too.
Yes. Good. Yeah. Super.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if they've gone out of their way to offer that help, then they're going to feel good for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
The third question is similar to the second one, I think. Do you prioritize others' needs or desires over your own? I mean, it's a little more long-term.
Probably yes.
Sacrificing.
Yeah, and also just taking care of other people.
Mm-hmm.
My mom always says, you're not Mother Teresa, stop helping others, help yourself first.
Wow.
That's kind of, yeah. So
Oh,
again,
wow.
ongoing work. Ongoing work.
Oh, you do look good in blue.
Thank you.
Next question. Do you often feel like you should do more in all areas of your life?
In all areas of my life. Can I throw that back at you while I think about it?
Yeah, I would say that it's true. There's some areas where that kind of inner critic voice is saying to me, Amy, you should. Yeah, and there's this great expression in coaching, don't should on yourself.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we've talked about that before.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So that's when
should have done this, should have done that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess there's always somewhere, not everything, maybe, should be doing more sport, should be doing more hours of work, or there's a few areas, not all areas.
The last question for the moment is I think is true for me. Are you overly invested in the decisions and outcomes of the people you love? Sometimes I get into other people's business and I have no place being there.
That's interesting. See, I don't know if I do that. Overly invested in the decisions and outcomes of the people you love.
Great.
No, I don't think I do.
So isn't that interesting?
Way too busy at my end doing my stuff.
Though it's fascinating how you and I don't necessarily. So I think it's interesting for listeners. You don't necessarily have to say yes to all of the questions. It's just, what are the areas where you might have weaker boundaries than other areas?
Right. And there was another question I think she asked as well, wasn't there? Something about commitments. Yeah.
Do you keep commitments with yourself and others?
Commitments with myself. Yeah, again, maybe with the sport. So I'm going to go for a run every single morning, and I've decided to do that for a few months, and that's helping in many, many ways. And commitments with others, of course. Yeah. So that's. What about you?
Yeah, pretty much. I kind of like the idea of looking at the commitments to myself of like caretaking, of going to bed at the right time, and not over making sure I'm doing my sports as a way as a boundary to honor myself. I like that, looking at it from that perspective. Yeah. Okay. And can you hear my doggy still having a good old chew on this bone? Yes, he is. He knows his boundaries, and he's just gonna go. Oh, he came straight back through the door. I did put him outside. I guess he's just gonna sit next to us throughout the whole show. Okay. Well, listeners, if you could see this dog, you'd just be delighted. He's just the cutest little. He's thing. Already featured in one of the shows before. Oh, that's true. He did have a little cry and a sing along at some point. It's like the mascot. And you know what Terri says? She has this quote. She says, having strong, healthy boundaries is the key to living a healthy, happy, empowered life. Amen. And the good news is that learning to set healthy boundaries is a totally learnable skill. That's so good to hear. It really is. Isn't it? Right? Yeah. There is hope. She explains how our dysfunctional patterns, which she talked about from childhood, makes setting boundaries difficult. Yes. Tell me more. What do you think about that? Yeah. Funny you should ask, because the words dysfunctional patterns didn't really figure in my vocabulary until I listened to the first few chapters over and over, about maybe 3 or 4 times. And dysfunctional, something with that word, dysfunctional. Nobody wants to be dysfunctional, although we all come from dysfunctional families, because that's what humans are. We are dysfunctional, right? So you can't really get away from it. It's the admitting to it and sitting with it and dissecting it again. And so it took me a while, and I realized that some of the scenes that I'd witnessed as a child were still flashing up every now and then for me, and I'd kind of buried them away into my secrets box or whatever, the closet, or what does she say, the boundary basement, push them back down to the boundary basement. And this work that we're both doing, thanks to the book, made me realize that it all needs to be dealt with. And I'm so happy I'm doing it again, because I've got my daughter who's 12, and so I've already started to talk to her about this book, and also it makes me realize
not just the boundaries as a mother, also as a, with work and with family and with loved ones everywhere. It's so appropriate in many, many areas of our lives. So then it blew my mind when Terri said, wait for this one, because it obviously made me think of you. Ineffective communication skills lead to weak boundary skills. I was like, wait, just gonna put that back again. Listen, communication skills. Yeah, because if we don't have the basis of clear communication and working on our communication skills constantly, if we're not doing that work, then how can we communicate where our boundaries lie? We can't. Or they may
communicate effectively before we blow up and scream.
Right.
Yeah.
So working on our communication skills is essential if we're going to set boundaries with others. It's just that simple. It's not one without the other.
And in a way, I see it as the vehicle to being proactively practicing setting boundaries.
Yeah.
It's getting good at the communication and expressing yourself, asking for what you want, saying when, something's not working for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm, definitely if you started any kind of work around communication, then as you said, it's the vehicle.
Yeah.
Then you'll be able to let people know without pissing anybody off or without stepping on people's toes.
Well, you can't guarantee that someone won't be pissed off. You'll reduce the likelihood because the packaging will be the most effective possible. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the packaging.
Because like you were asking earlier, when I set boundaries, are there people that get frustrated with me? And yes, sometimes they still do. Yeah.
Wow. So how does that look? Is it, I guess it depends on the relationship you have with that person, right? Yeah. If it's a work scenario, then maybe you can read somebody's face or the eyebrows go up or whatever it is, physical reaction. Yeah. Or verbal.
And I guess this is part of why helping people strengthen their communication skills is such a passion for me, because when they can communicate more effectively, they're going to reduce that frustration and increase satisfaction. So
absolutely,
it's all one big happy circle.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is great for listeners. This is for me, a nice, easy flag. Terri says, you'll know a boundary has been crossed if you have an excessively strong reaction to a situation, or you act against your own best interests.
So that feeling of, this is not sitting with me, this is not working for me. Is that what you mean by your own best interests? You kind of like that internal feeling of, no, this is not where I should be going.
Or that you agree to do something or choose to do something that is not, that's not good for you.
Yeah, well, it makes me think about your take on shifting, as we said earlier, from reacting to responding, to being in control of your response.
Yeah, I started working on that in my 20s. I could see that there'd be action and then my immediate reaction. And I just spent years creating more and more space. I didn't do it through meditation like Terri does. I did it probably through therapy and personal development programs. And I also work to bring in humor and play as a way to shift the energy and not take myself too seriously.
Yes, absolutely. And I've seen you do that.
Yeah.
And also for me, I'm working on that at the moment. And I know the knee-jerk reaction, I've definitely slowed down, definitely being a little bit more in control. And looking back, think, wow, I mean, I've said this before, going from 0 to 100, flying off the handle when something didn't go my way or I was triggered. And now it's like,
okay,
it's taken me 4 years.
That's actually, no, that's a pretty impressive amount of time. I know it sounds like a long time though.
Yeah.
And so I was just talking to someone about this a couple of weeks ago. When they said, Amy, I react out of fear or defensiveness. And they said, I don't know what to do. I said, well, what if you purposely do nothing? So the person says something, you feel your reaction and you keep your lips closed and you just nod.
Wow. Yeah.
And this pausing and nodding and silence, not like the cold stare, you're just nodding as if you're taking in the information, even though inside you're just freaking out. This happened yesterday. I went into a very fancy clinic to get an x-ray. I forgot the piece of paper from the doctor saying, I had, and
prescription. Yeah.
The prescription. Thank you. And the receptionist said, "Oh, well, we can't do it."
Really?
And she was crystal clear this was not going to happen.
Wow.
And I was a little freaked out because I have zero time in my agenda to come back and do this again anytime soon. And I automatically just went into, Amy, keep your mouth shut and nod. I just nodded. And then she repeated it and she said it a couple of times. And I was like, oh my gosh, I really think she's going to kick me out of here without letting me. This is crazy. Like, this is really going to happen.
Yeah. What happened?
So in the end, I kept my mouth shut. And the next thing I knew was she was writing a temporary prescription for me.
Without you asking. That's amazing, isn't it?
Right. Hey, listen, let's pause here. Let's go to break. And listeners, we'll be back with more about Boundary Boss by Terri Cole.
Oh.
Yes. And if you want to take your superhero partner powers into the next decade, join me for my online leadership presence course. You'll find more details on my website, carrollcoaching.com. Stay tuned. You're listening to Partner Up with Amy Carroll on the Voice America Business Channel. Welcome back to Partner Up with Amy Carroll. I'm here with my communication compadre, Talitha Vee. Welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
And today, listeners, we're talking about the book Boundary Boss by Terri Cole. T and I have just been enamored by this book, find it really fascinating. And right before the break, we were talking about what we were saying that was triggering something for you, T.
So you mentioned the story about yesterday being in the receptionist's office and not having the prescription with you, and you thought that the receptionist was going to kick you out because she absolutely wanted that piece of paper. And it made me think about what I've been doing recently when I'm triggered and about to get into some kind of disagreement with whoever that may be. And often it's with my teenage daughter. I'm actually talking to myself. So I said, I feel like a crazy woman, Amy, because I can feel that this is another thing. I didn't know when I was going to get triggered before doing this work on the communication and all the stuff that we do together. Now I know that triggered me. So already number one is that, I'm triggered thing happens, like, and the second thing is I'm saying to myself, how is this making you feel? Rather than reacting. So we were saying having these strong reactions, I'm responding rather than reacting. And so by saying to myself in that moment of, right, this is triggering me, or somebody's triggered you. How are you feeling about that? How are you feeling about it? And I literally talking to myself. That has changed everything, Amy.
That is amazing.
Changed everything.
So if I hear you correctly, you're, instead of giving into the internal reaction, you're and letting something come out of your mouth, you're acknowledging the reaction, and then you're asking yourself, how am I feeling? Which to me, what I'm hearing is that's a way of offering emergency self-empathy.
Right. Didn't know that. Seems like I'm doing it.
Awesome.
And it is awesome. Really cannot tell you how it's changing everything. So situations that could be unpleasant for everybody involved are now diffused. It's insane how it's something so simple can change.
Isn't that?
In all areas of your life. Yeah, it really is. It's fascinating.
And I'm guessing that there are some times you may calm down and you may still say, it seems to me like I'd like to make a request here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I'm going to take care of myself so that, this doesn't exacerbate and get worse. Yeah,
absolutely. It just gives the kind of comfy cushion zone for me to think about how I'm going to deal with that situation rather than just going in there, which is what many of us do.
And that's exactly what Terri says. She said, strengthening boundaries to the things that will be included in order to strengthen those boundaries is slowing down.
Right.
And then at times stepping out of your comfort zone, doing something that feels different, awkward, unnatural, and authentic, perhaps.
Okay.
And you do it enough until you own it.
Well, this, I mean, even just not reacting, not being, or feeling the trigger, that's stepping out of my comfort zone.
Exactly.
Because I have felt so good about being up, just reacting all of that.
Yes.
We do that reaction thing all of our lives. So it's already very weird to step out and be in touch with what's happening. Okay, I'm triggered. And now, how am I feeling about this?
Mm-hmm.
It's super powerful.
When I talk with some clients, they will sometimes push back and they say, well, Amy, that's not being authentic.
Oh, okay.
And I say, well,
interesting.
I say, you can be authentic or you can be married.
I love it.
Or, you can be authentic and be happy. The thing is, I'm not saying don't express how you're feeling and you're frustrated, though saying that calmly and slowly will have a very different impact than screaming and yelling and hitting something.
Completely. Yeah, completely. So it's an ongoing process, and I'm seeing so many great benefits to this work.
Right.
And it's only just beginning. The boundary thing. I mean, the boundary thing is just a whole new world. I'm talking about the communication thing. So now I'm so excited to be, where can I put these boundaries? I've got a whole stack of boundaries and I want to throw them out there. And it's hard. I mean, I know where I need to be putting them in place. I already have thought about where they should be.
Okay.
Haven't done that yet. That's probably going to take another 6 weeks or maybe another 4 years. So,
okay, here's an idea. You want to hear it?
Yep. Go for it.
Visualize setting the boundaries.
Okay.
Even if you never do it with that person, that situation, you can even take situations from 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago or 3 years ago and say, okay, if I was in that situation again, what would be the boundary I'd like to set? Okay. My theory, T, is that's like a form of visualization. And that's strengthening the internal boundaries because you're creating that new path. Like, okay, this is a choice I have available.
Love it.
And that means in the future, there's a higher probability you'll be able to find that.
Ready for it.
Yeah.
When
something similar
happens. Need to sit down and go through where I could have put more back. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess throughout the day, there's many situations, right? Depending on who you're around. I've got some now, so I'm going to give that a
go. So let's give the listeners some thoughts. Because listeners, Terri talks about, she says, to have a relationship with yourself and set strong boundaries, she makes a number of recommendations. She says we have choices of how people can treat us in our personal life and our professional life. You'll discover that you have a full range of choices available, and you may not have recognized that up until now. And then she talks about types of people that have weak or porous boundaries. She describes them as the perennial pleaser, the overgiver, wants to be all things to all people, the advice givers, the fixers.
That, I know that one. And I think I've been guilty of that over the years.
Me too.
Trying to give advice when people maybe don't need it.
Yeah.
And it was coming from a generous place and a caring place. And Terri says something about that too, doesn't she? About just not giving the advice. And I think she did that too. Just listening, just being the open ear that somebody may need. Why we want to give the advice, I guess we want to help somebody, and that happened with you and I once. I think we were having a discussion and I offered some advice to you, and then I realized in another conversation that we had, Amy, you said to me, T, I've got some advice, would you mind listening to it? And so already, rather than jumping in and saying, hey T, try this, do this, and you'd ask my permission prior to doing so. So, just stepping back and asking, but amazing.
No, and I wasn't born that way. I had to learn. I really had to train myself to do that.
Wow. And you do it so well.
Thanks. And as a coach, you're kind of in that automatic wanting to, coaches are supposed to just ask questions. I'm not the best coach. I'm like, well, let's brainstorm new ways to solve this problem. Hey, let's talk about some of the things that listeners can do for greater self-care. Now, Terri talks about perfectionists. And she advises them, she says, you'll need to use a different approach other than that extreme focus that you have, that you normally use in your life. And then she said something like that perfectionist approach may come from fear rather than from love.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Fear of making mistakes, fear of being criticized. There's different motivations.
Makes sense. Really makes sense. So what about the self-care? She mentions the Zen Den. I think that's what she calls it. Creating her little space, doesn't she? And she suggests that everybody does that. To be honest, I didn't necessarily do it. I just have cushions in a corner of one of the rooms, and that's kind of the space that I go to relax and to meditate. So what do you do? Where's your Zen Den, Amy?
Well, I don't have one either. And I wonder if that's because living alone, I don't have a need to get away anywhere. All the spaces are available to me. I mean, it's true that you've had a dedicated place that would be probably good training for the brain. Though one thing I do almost every morning is I'll do some form of breathing exercise, whether it's the Wim Hof breathing or some other breathing. And that is a way to help get myself present.
So why do you think she suggests that we need to do this carve out self-care? What's the link with the boundaries? Why?
I guess for me, you're creating greater self-intimacy. You're sending a message to yourself that you value yourself.
I see. Okay. So can we give listeners a few examples? What would your top 5 things be for taking care of yourself? I know you said you do your breathing exercises. I know you're very fond of getting out for a walk around that lake in Geneva, Switzerland, aren't you?
Yeah, Lake Geneva. Oh gosh. Exercise is a big one for me. Calling a friend, laughing, playing, doing improv, hot baths, chocolate, massages.
Oh yeah, I can join you on the chocolate one. This is maybe it's because it's winter. I decided that I can tuck into a bar of chocolate most days, and wasn't something I was doing before. I am going for a run every single morning. So amazing. I guess it feels like a bit of a reward to myself. Yeah, that feels really good. Exercise every single day, even if it's 20 minutes. I know we all have crazy busy lives. Going for a walk, I got the dog last year, and that changed my whole life because he has 3 long, nice walks every day. So the walking then became running, and now I have a bit of a problem. I get to the beach because I live right here on the beach, get to the beach for a walk and feel the need to run.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, I'm becoming an addict, really. It makes me think about the show that you did with your wonderful nephew, Colin Carroll, who spoke about the importance of fitness. That was show, I wrote it down, show 59. I think that aired on the 15th of October. So listeners can go check that one out as well. Super interesting stuff. So we carve out this time, and you mentioned creating more joy in your life, more freedom, and greater intimacy. Talk to me about intimacy. What do you mean? Intimacy with self?
Right. I think it can be with yourself, like yourself more. You're not afraid to, like what you did, take a deep dive into your boundary basement and reflect and look. And I think that when you connect on a deeper level also with other people.
Okay.
And that is illustrated through your willingness to be more vulnerable.
Right.
And I see this when I do improv with the people I perform with in 2 different troupes. There's a level of transparency that we're willing to take our masks off, not the COVID friendly mask, the metaphorical mask.
Okay. Yeah.
And just allow ourselves to be seen.
So taking away the boundaries then?
No, not taking away the boundaries.
Okay.
Willing to be vulnerable, show my vulnerability, build a sense of intimacy with in a non-sexual way, platonic intimacy. So and that's a relief. That takes pressure off me personally, because I don't feel like I have to play a certain role.
Okay. So all of these self-care tips will then enable us to be more in touch with ourselves, right? Be more in touch with our feelings, and thus set boundaries.
I think it could be. I think it's kind of goes both ways. It's, we can take care of ourselves more, set more boundaries, be more aware of what we want our boundaries to be, increase a sense of confidence and well-being. Yeah. So I think it's a number of things.
Oh, so much good stuff.
Yeah. I remember in the book, Terri talks about, she makes a distinction around boundaries. She talks about internal versus external. So this will help. Internal boundaries means how you treat yourself. And external boundaries is how, refers to how you allow others to treat you.
Yeah. Okay. So what do we do first? Does she mention that? I can't remember if she mentioned.
I don't think so. I think it's kind of can be done
hand in hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Interchangeable. Yeah. Wow. It just really blows my mind to think about the internal boundaries. Treating yourself.
Right.
Not just going on the hamster wheel of every day. Okay, you get into the pattern of drop the kids to school and make food and then get to the work computer and then
right.
Just
so
boundaries.
And if you take away that I should this, I should that, that's a way of having an internal boundary. If that's not something you want to do, if it's not something you have to do, then maybe not doing it is setting an internal boundary, a way of taking care of yourself.
Great. So
she talks about ways how what a boundary boss looks like in action. And this is so interesting. This is what you were talking about just when we came back from the break. She said, number one, as emotions come up, stop, name them, and honor them.
There we go. I'm on the right track.
You are. Then she says, number two, make your own Zen Den. And then three, get inspired, meditate. So these are very concrete steps that she offers.
Yeah. I know for me, I like to play music. So just grabbing my guitar is can be my meditation as well.
I can imagine.
Yeah. It's kind of like therapy, just losing myself in that.
Yeah, I can picture that.
Yeah. And being present. The big one.
Yes. So, we, at the beginning of the show, we read off some of those quiz questions, and I can think of a few more.
Okay.
So here's another, so listeners, get your paper and pen, your metaphorical paper and pen. So here's another question. Does attempting to speak up bring up feelings of anxiety or dread for you?
Yeah, I guess it could, for sure, depending on the subject and with whom.
Like I remember when I first joined one of my improv troupes, I was the new kid. And yeah, exactly. And I remember distinctly being afraid to say, hey guys, do you think that's a good idea? Or what if
I just giving any input?
Yeah. I just didn't trust that my voice would be heard, or I was afraid that they would reject me if So that was about, 2016. So we're looking at 5 years ago now.
Wow. And that's not an issue any longer.
Well, no.
Oh, by the way, dog's really under my feet now. He's decided to bring me the bone.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Cracking and chomping and
So I'm not sure. It's possible that if I joined a new group today, I might still hold back. Because I want to get my feet wet. I want to get a sense of the group before launching in and giving my opinion. Sure.
And feels like we mostly do that, right? I mean, it could be a new parents group or a new sports group or whatever, a new team at work. I guess we observe first, right? Is that...
I don't, maybe, maybe there's some people who are just happy to just speak up right away.
Okay. I guess I'd do what you do. I think I'd sit back and observe a little bit first and feel a bit nervous about jumping straight in.
So,
okay.
Another question?
Go for it.
When paying for service, do you avoid telling people if you were unsatisfied?
Ooh, think I've done both. So I've told people that something's not right, whatever that may have been. And I've also felt like, oh, I'm not going to bother them. Doesn't matter.
So I guess the good question is, does it really not matter? Are you going to think about it? Because you're right. There's plenty of times where it really doesn't matter. And
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Here's one time. I was, I've got braces on my teeth and I've had to go back and get this work done. Well, one of the first appointments I had, the assistant, while she had this contraption in my mouth, pulling my mouth wide open, she took a phone call. And I was horrified. I was like,
yeah, mega uncomfortable. And she's just going to prolong the whole thing.
Right.
Oh,
so
gosh.
At the end, when the dentist checked with me and how was everything, I didn't want to complain to him. I felt like this was something I wanted to express, and I wasn't willing to get her in trouble, though I wanted her to get my feedback. So I said, oh, would it be okay if I speak with Claudia? And he was a little confused. He's like, yeah, okay. Thanks. So he sends Claudia in. It's just the two of us. And I very kindly, very gently explain why that was kind of stressful for me.
So how did you do it?
Oh, I was really easygoing, gracious, made a joke about it, and just said, maybe in the future, don't take the phone call.
Yeah. Well, you probably changed the way she hopefully did stuff for the next person.
Yeah, I wasn't worried at all. She totally took it on. She wasn't defensive. She was apologetic. She had an explanation without over defending or justifying herself. At the same time, she's like, yeah, we'll find a solution so that doesn't happen again.
Great. Well done.
The next time I went back, it was clear that she had gone to the dentist, her boss, to say, hey, this is what we talked about. He said, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And then he and I got into this long conversation about leadership. And how
at the dentist,
he gave me a book to listen to. I told him about,
that's cool.
No. And so now we've had this whole another level of connection, which is just delightful.
That's great. Yeah. Somebody just dropped something upstairs, I think. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Always so quiet in my house, Amy. Welcome to my world. Okay, what other questions did she ask?
Another question was, do you tend to ignore your own needs for too long, then explode in frustration?
Oh, that's an ugly one. And I'm sure, I've been there 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And again, not something I do now, thanks to all the work that I'm doing.
I do it less and less. Yeah. Here's another one. Do you often have a specific idea of how things should be done and then get frustrated when others seem clueless?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you often avoid speaking up if you have a different opinion with the individual or group you're with?
Avoid speaking up. Again, I guess if I thought I could swing the situation, and depending on the severity of what the outcome would be, how important it is, then I may let it go. Otherwise, if I really, my conviction is to change that situation, then I'll speak up for sure.
Yeah. And I guess for me, what I often rely on is, will I feel resentful if I don't speak up?
Right. Yeah.
And then it seems like a really easy decision. We only have a few minutes left, so let's get through these questions and then.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. What was another one? Have you created problematic relationships because you have a hard time saying no?
Ooh. No, I don't think so. Have you? Problematic relationships because you didn't say no.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you cut people out of your life?
I've done that.
And sometimes that's a really healthy boundary to do that. Though sometimes I think there's people who will cut someone out of their life because they don't have the question above. They can't say no, or they don't know how to have healthy boundaries. So they'd rather have no connection whatsoever.
Yeah. I've done that in the past. I don't think I'd do it again now, because I'd be able to go and confront the person in the the correct manner.
And I didn't finish reading the whole question. Let me read it again.
Mm-hmm.
Do you cut people out of your life rather than avoid having to have a difficult conversation?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I've done that for sure.
Yeah, I guess no, I would only cut someone out of my life if I felt like, if I believed that behavior was just not going to change, or I wasn't willing to invest the time and energy that I thought it might take.
Yeah.
Then, basta.
Yeah, for sure.
And then another question she offers is, if friends or family are having a hard time, do you feel compelled to help them even if they haven't asked for your help?
I guess so.
Yeah.
This
goes a little bit about
compelled, maybe. Yeah.
Do you feel compelled?
I would offer help for sure.
Yeah. I've gotten better at that asking, would you like advice, would you like help?
There we go. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, I was just trying to think how this links to the boundary thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So T, we had so much more we wanted to share with listeners.
It's endless. This is just an endless topic for now, because
and the book is just
doing the
full
work.
Of nuggets after nugget after nugget.
It is.
She talks about the 5 different categories of boundaries. I think we're just going to have to do another show.
Oh yeah, I'd love to.
Okay.
And the other thing she said was, having healthy boundaries makes you brave and generous. If we could finish with that.
Oh, that's a good one. Give it to us one more time.
Having healthy boundaries makes you brave and generous. So we always think of boundaries as kind of like that cutoff point, and maybe we're stopping something, or and so actually it's the opposite. You're being generous by setting your boundaries, because the communication is clear and people know exactly where they are with you and exactly what you're willing to accept.
Exactly. So listen, I think you're right. Let's have Rajkumari Neoji's, let's play her episode next week, November 26th, because it's a holiday. So it's going to be a repeat show. She's an epigenetic coach and executive consultant focusing on the intersection of neurobiology, culture, and empathy in today's business world. In this episode, Rajkumari helps us to understand the impact on transgenerational trauma and why a sense of belonging is so critical to feeling happy and productive. She also offers us straightforward practices for dismantling toxic work cultures. And listeners, if you want to find out more about me, you can go directly to my website, carrollcoaching.com. That's 2 R's and 2 L's. Or you can connect directly with me on my social media channels, Amy Carroll Coaching. And if you're game for more, T and I will be hopping over to Facebook Live 5 minutes past the hour for a short chat on today's call. Yes. T, thank you. This has been wonderful.
Thank you, Amy.
And listeners, you've been listening to Partner Up with Amy Carroll on the Voice America Business Channel. Happy partnering, everyone.